Hello everybody, welcome to Magic Monday. I hope you're all having a good day so far. I'm just going to check the audio levels quickly. Perfect. Good. We are live and we should be good to go. We are on the eve of a full moon in Aquarius coming up. So we're going to go through all of that as well as a little bit about the Yod that we have in the sky right now. We also have a grand trine, but that's not as exciting as looking at what a Yod is. And it's also going to serve as a little bit of an educational tool due to the fact that if you are born with a Yod in your natal chart, then this will serve as some intel for you as well as to how to deal with it. So let me just turn down that music a little bit. So without further ado, let's go into the chart of the everlasting now. Okay, so you can see the chart right here on the left. And as you can see, we have the sun is currently in Leo. We are fully in Leo season, so happy Leo season to the Leos out there. We also do have Venus in Leo as well. And if you see here, right, in Virgo, there's also Mercury and Mars. So there's a lot of action on this side that is opposing Neptune and Saturn, which are sitting in Pisces still, the land of dreams. The moon, as you can see here, is cusping Aquarius. So we're going to have a full moon in Aquarius tomorrow. But for now, we are currently sitting with the moon in Capricorn, where Pluto is also currently sitting in Capricorn before it comes back into Aquarius next year. So we do have a little bit of a moon and Pluto conjunction, which means that emotions are pretty heightened right now in the sense of the moon representing your inner child, your inner mother, all of that kind of good stuff. And then if we think of Pluto as change, harbingers of change, as well as the idea of rebirth, tearing things down to make new. So there can be a lot of really heightened emotions as it comes to what it means to deal with change. And so that's just something to kind of look for as well when it comes to your dreams actually tonight, if you think about that as the full moon comes into its full power. Also, other things to note in the stars right now is this action right here, the lunar nodes. Of course, the nodes of destiny have officially shifted. It's moving, making its way through Aries. And so this restlessness, this idea of wanting to take action. We do have also Venus and the sun. Venus is retrograding. I know there's a lot of talk about how to deal with Venus retrograde. I like to look at Venus retrograde as more of an internal expression of the themes that Venus represents, which is love, beauty, art, relationships, all of that wonderful good stuff. I am a Taurus, and so ruled by Libra. From that, not ruled by Libra, Libra and Taurus are ruled by Venus, and so those themes are especially expressed. So if we think of the fact that Venus is retrograding, she's also moving towards the sun. So she's now facing the solar part of her as opposed to Mars. So if we think of the fact that she's sitting in between her two lovers of Mars and the sun, she's facing her solar self right now. So even though she's retrograding, there's also a level of being true to your soul self as you look at what your goals are in Leo season, because Leo season is all about achieving things that are set out for you. We do have Lionsgate 888 coming up, and that's a very powerful manifestation time. So let's see here if there's anything else to look at. Chiron, of course, is still in Aries, and just as a reminder, Chiron is the wounded healer and expresses on a more grander scale where one can achieve healing in this lifetime from past lifetimes or even past selves, or even in a more overall sense of how we as a people, as a humanity, can achieve healing in this age from previous times in our human history. But the most spicy things to look at right now are the Yod, I'm going to just scroll down here. If you want to get your own birth chart as per this particular calculator, I have a link to that in the description. So as I said, there is a grand trine, but it is concerning the midheaven, and that's more of a mathematical point. I'm not going to focus too much on that because it's not a luminary, it's not a specific planet. Same thing with the lunar nodes. They're not exact luminary or planets or stars or asteroids or anything like that. They're more of a calculation of other points in your chart to determine that point. What I want to look at before we get into the card readings is the Yod. The Yod is known as the fingerprint of fate, a fingerprint of destiny. And if you are born with Yods in your birth chart, it usually signifies individuals, or in this case, a time where there is great healing or a type of behavior or action that needs to take place that will resolve a storyline from an ancestral past or the past, or a way of healing generational trauma. So if we can get clues determined from the planets that are in the Yod. And so if you look at what the Yod kind of looks like, it looks kind of like a fingerprint or like an arrow. It gives a little bit of a direction as to where you want to take action. So Venus being in Leo, Pluto in Capricorn, Neptune in Pisces, and the Moon in Capricorn. So it's concerning the fact that we have the energies of, oh, you can't really see it here. There we go, perfect. Much better to see it in this kind of visual representation. So it's Venus here in her retrograde point in Leo, functioning as a point. So she's the focal point. This idea of love and relationships is the focal point, kind of opposing. And there's a sextile here between Pluto and the Moon with Neptune. So these energies are in harmony with each other, and I would say Neptune, the Moon, and Pluto all deal a lot with the subconscious. They deal a lot with under the surface kind of emotions. And so if we think about that being in a Yod with Venus and relationships, and her currently being in retrograde, but she's also in Leo, and Leo's not very inward looking. It's usually a lesson for Leos to learn to be a bit more inward focused before actioning, even though Leos can tend to think that they are always right, and they may have all the best intentions, but it can take a little bit of work to kind of look inward. And so perhaps that's the lesson of this Yod, if it being a fingerprint of fate. Pluto being in Capricorn deals a lot with the tying up of loose ends before we come into the age of Aquarius. And so all of that kind of hustle action in terms of, closing up any business that is no longer needed, any like work things, tying up of loose ends. Neptune in Pisces, Neptune's exalted in Pisces, Neptune rules Pisces, and so being there as well, it's about honoring your dreams while tying up these loose ends. And then the Moon being in Capricorn as well there, it kind of also accents the idea of inner depth of feeling. That all pushing against the relationships, it may also mean that relationships need to be relooked at, perhaps ones that you thought were going to be the ones that were going to be the ones that you were going to make it past with. They didn't necessarily pass the test of what Pluto and Neptune and inner emotions end up showing, right? So I think it's all just to say that there's going to be a time here of really looking inward at important relationships and determining if those relationships are part of your soul's purpose and mission here, because as it comes to human beings, we all need each other, but it's also about practicing discernment and ensuring that those that are in your team and in your close circle are ones that are contributing and building a community that is one of individuals that are all supporting each other, and less of like, hey, this is my idea and you all have to kind of go along with it. So that is the reading of the Yod. The Yod does represent places where there's an opportunity, like it can be challenging, but there is an opportunity to take action where you can break a loop, an old pattern, and find some freedom as a result of that. Okay, so let's go into the card readings. Oh, I have like my two screens here. So that way we have one that's more focused on the card, and then one where I'm talking a bit more. Okay, so we are going to start with Leo this time, actually. I know. It's just because we're kind of like midway through the zodiac wheel, and then that way it's not always us starting with Aries and then poor Pisces is at the end each time. So I'm going to shuffle both cards. We're going to do a 2-card pull, but it's going to be a major arcana pull from both the Shadowscapes deck and the Astro Matrix deck. And so starting with you, Leo, so bear in mind this is all considering the energies that we have at hand and at play. So the Yod, as well as the full moon coming up in Aquarius as we're moving from Capricorn into Aquarius, as well as Venus retrograde, and the fact that we have a lot of energies pushing and pulling between deeper inner subconscious stuff and the responsibilities, and as things are getting reshuffled on the surface level. So Leo, we're going to start with the Shadowscapes one first. So Leo, your first pull is the Emperor. And then we've got the Magician. I do like this version of the Magician from the Astro Matrix deck, so let's put them up here. So the first one being the Emperor. This is a very Aries card. It looks very Aries. Oops. Initiation and the amount of drive, will in order to get stuff done. So Leo, with all of this, well, all of this stuff, there was a lot more action happening in your sign. We do have Venus there, and we do have the Sun there. It is Leo season, and so this is a little bit of strength, a little bit of a sign to enact your will. And the Magician here is that there is all of this power at hand, there's all of this raw material at hand for you to take it and have those manifest in a great way for you. As I said, like Lionsgate, Leo season, the Sun, it's all a very wonderful manifestation time. And the Magician is about taking elements and putting it together to make it real, and this is about having the power, the strength in order to push that forward. So Leo, this is a very, I think, positive reading if you're trying to get something done, which I feel like you're always trying to get something done. So there you go. But as I said, retrograding in relationships and also taking a little bit of a breath to find direction before making action is always a good thing. Okay, so next we have Virgo. And we do have Mercury and Mars in Virgo right now. And Mercury is actually... Mercury rules two planets, two signs as well. Mercury rules Gemini, and Mercury also rules Virgo. And that's why the caduceus looks like it's representative of the healthcare system because of that connection. That's why Virgo is also concerned with service and all that good stuff. Okay, so Virgo, we have Judgment. Put that to the side, and then the second pull. The Hermit. So it looks like, what do you call it, like Antarctica, something like out in the middle of nowhere, hermiting out. So Virgo, first of all, we have Judgment. There's a lot of blue butterflies here. I look at that as kind of like the horn, a harbinger of rebirth, metamorphosis, and change. Virgos are very analytical as well. So judgment, I can kind of almost feel like maybe there's a process by which you're going through right now, Virgo, where you're judging self or others. So let's have that first, and then following that up with the Hermit. It's a matter of maybe you're just taking the time, as I said right now with the Yod. There's this staying true to the relationships that are fulfilling your soul's purpose, and sometimes it can just take that time of going inward to make those judgment calls before taking any actions. And so Virgo, there's a time of inward introspection and judgment as you're going through, I think, both relationships of self and relationships with others, and just sifting through all of that, organizing it, and ensuring that going forward, it's going to be the relationships that serve your true purpose. So next, we have Libra. So planets in Libra right now, although you always want to look at the opposing sign whenever you think of any sign. And so the opposing sign to Libra is Aries. So where Libra is partnership, Aries is about the self. But there is intel to be had by looking at the opposite sign. You need to be an individual to be able to be a good partner, and then you also need to consider other people if you want to grow as an individual. So Libra, first pull is the Lovers, which is very fitting for Libra. The Lovers card is actually a Gemini card, but in this case, I think it's fitting for Libra in terms of partnerships, and us talking about Venus being in Leo and retrograding in relationships. The Lovers is a very nice theme right now, considering what's happening with the moon. And so we also have our fun Judgment card, but the Astro Matrix version, which is the phoenix rising from the ashes of things that no longer serve you. So the Lovers card is a coming together of partnerships, so that new connections are probably on the horizon. New connections, because the Lovers is about different energies, male and female energies, coming together to make something new, and even like new ideas and generating new ideas through a synthesis of two what sometimes may seem like opposite elements coming together. And with the Judgment, this particular version of it is a lot of like coming out of the ashes. And so sometimes, even in relationships, and you can't, in a relationship that's not working, you can't cheat on that relationship. You have to end it and then move on to something new. I mean, like, you can cheat on it, you can do whatever you want, but ultimately there's an inner judgment for behaving not in accordance with your highest soul purpose. Let's just take a look back here to see if what else is going on. So I've got Scorpio next, and Scorpio is special to me because Scorpio opposes Taurus, and so certain things will be similar, like intensity, things like that, and then other things will be like opposites attract. So intense, but in different ways. Okay, so Scorpio, we have the Hermit. So this is a theme for like the energies of the week, considering that Yod is going to shuffle this. So we've got the Hermit first for you, Scorpio, and then the Sun, which, speaking of opposites, those are kind of different energies, right? If you think about the Hermit being introspective, looking inward, the Hermit is also this idea of inner, like, dark night of the soul, looking inward and determining, okay, this is what I want to be doing, sifting through all of like different dreams and thoughts and emotions to kind of come through as to like, this is what I'm really going to act with. and the sun, or maybe at least do actually go together quite well, because remember, the sun is soul purpose. The sun rules Leo, the will, the solar plexus. And so maybe it's a matter of like, to honor your whole soul self, Scorpio, it's about going introspective and looking in. And I was looking at the shadow side of Scorpios, and this is also a shadow side of Taurus, where like, because of the intensity of emotions, sometimes things like jealousy and possessiveness come up as themes. And the Hermit card is a good time to kind of look at maybe not so happy feelings or emotions where you are feeling possessive or like feeling raw about something, and then looking at it from a you perspective and less of like them perspective, because then it's a matter of developing your own personal powers to like what to do about it, so that you shouldn't have to feel jealous, like, or it's a matter of like, okay, this maybe I feel jealous, but it's because I want this. It's not really a reflection on other people. It's all about stuff that you can work on in yourself, Scorpio, in order to achieve what it is you need to achieve. So that's my reading. You've got the Hermit and the Sun. Okay. So now we're going to do Sagittarius. And I also have finally my follow-up Astro Chat presentation planned, because when I did JFK and Marilyn Monroe's synastry chart, I found out that JFK, C.S. Lewis, and Aldous Huxley all died within 8 hours of each other on the same day, on the last cusp of Scorpio before it changed to Sagittarius. And the moon is also in Aquarius, which it's going to be tomorrow. So, interesting. So, Sagittarius. Firstly, we've got Judgment. It's always a card that comes up as a theme, I find, in things. And the Hermit. So it's interesting. This is like a stack in like the opposite direction of Judgment and Hermit. And the same ideas of, this is very Venus retrograde themes of going inward. And I think this is a little bit harder for some signs such as Sagittarius, which is a mutable fire sign, and also known as like a sign of travel, always going out there and like doing something. It can be a little bit of a challenge, maybe sometimes, to come inward, be a hermit for a little bit, talk to your inner voice, honor that, especially with the fact that Pluto and the moon are together right now in Capricorn, kind of close to your sign. But the Judgment there as well is that I think also kind of functions as a bit of a, say like a warning that's a little bit ominous, but more about, you'll know for yourself if you don't take the time to look inward, and then to your own detriment if something goes wrong then, I think. Okay, so next, Sagittarius, the Hermit, and Judgment. Okay, so next we have Capricorn. A lot of action in Capricorn right now. And Capricorn's ruled by Saturn, and one of the 3 earth signs, so Capricorn, Virgo, and Taurus are all earth signs, and they all express that element in different ways. And so Saturn also in your chart represents karma and time, and your Saturn return's all about like work, responsibilities, and all that stuff. And so, oh, this is a fun card, Capricorn, the Fool. The courage to play the Fool. It's I think a difficult, not difficult, but I feel like Capricorns, it's a lot of like that hustle, getting stuff done. And so to set off in a totally new direction, let's say you put like a lot of work in one direction, and then now you're like, maybe this is not the right way to go. I need to follow my dreams first. That's harder for Capricorns, being very practical. I can feel this being a Taurus, that maybe like throw a certain cautions to the wind, let go a little bit, and be able to take calculated risks. And the next card to clarify that, Capricorn, is the Devil. And if you see there, the Devil also is kind of like a Capricorn card. And this one also has like the numbers associated with it. So the Devil I do think the Devil gets a bad rap. This is all about, like, I think the shadow side of things. And so if you think about the Fool card, I like the Fool card, right? It starts the tarot deck. It's like all this fun initiatory stuff. You know, like you start a new project, you start a new endeavor. It's very fresh and exciting. The shadow side to that, in terms of the Devil card, is that there's always obstacles. There's always going to be challenges. Now, the key is that to ensure that your goals and your dreams are in alignment with your highest purpose, and not to dress it up with other things to make it seem like it's for your higher purpose, but it's like actually it's to serve these like lower desires, and I'm like jealous or envious, or I'm just trying to survive. And so like the Devil's about drives, but the shadow side of that, and just the idea of keeping that in check. There's nothing wrong with going for it, having that oomph, you know, because that is like your will, it's your ability to get stuff done and enact that, and to do it in a way that is for a higher good and not dressed up that way to make it seem that way sneakily. So Capricorn is also your card as well, like the idea of it's great to get stuff done, it's great to work, but there's always need for balance in this. So that's my reading for you, Capricorn, the Fool, followed by the Devil card. Okay, so then next we've got Aquarius. See, this is much nicer, right? Not so far down the line before we get to the later signs. Really, though, if you think about it, the zodiac wheel is like the wheel of time, and if you think about the later signs, it's supposed to be more of the interpersonal planets, the more generational planets. So those planets tend to be more activated when you have them aspecting with your personal planets, such as what we have right now with the Yod, right? Because you have Pluto and you have Neptune, which are much more outer planets generationally, but with it aspecting Venus and the Moon, you have a little bit more of meaning sitting there with it. Okay, so Aquarius. We're going to pull the Shadowscapes card first, and that is Justice, not to be confused with just Judgment. And this is, I feel like, accumulation card. So if you think about even magic and the full moon tends to be like accumulation or a fulfillment of something that you've planted in the new moon. So with this being Justice, I feel like there may be something Aquarius with the full moon that's coming where justice will be served, or you'll finally feel like you have justice. Actually, let's get the other card to see if we can get a clarification. Ooh, the Devil. Okay, let's spice this things up. So, Judgment, accumulation of something, the Devil here, I think it's a matter of desires and ensuring that your desires are true to what the overall purpose of everything is. I think it's, there's a, generally speaking, human beings want to move away from pain and towards pleasure, but I think it's here where you have justice being served, that in the past, if wrongs have been done unto you, where you've been kind of like in the way, or you have been in your own way, where it's like you've been serving only those lower drives, justice will be served in whatever way that looks like. That's nothing to be scared of. It's just a matter of bringing things into light, which is what I think divination and with the cards, that's a matter of bringing to the surface. That's kind of what it's all about. So Aquarius, that's Ready for you, you've got Justice and the Devil. Okay, Pisces, you're up next, and see, you're not last. It's going to be, oh, Cancer, you'll be last this time, sorry. You're okay with that. Usually in the middle. And Aries, you're not last, so no worries there. So Pisces actually is represented by the Hermit card. So it's dreamy, ruled by Neptune sign. I like Pisces. So you've got the World. Very fitting. It's this nice fulfillment kind of card. And we also have the Star. So Pisces, I feel like the last few readings for you have been like, oh, you have to check yourself. You should take action. You need to like, this almost like, you should do this. You should do that. But I was like, but I still need to keep dreaming and figure things out. So I feel like Pisces folk, the full moon will bring for you some sort of sign of fulfillment or something. It's like a gift. Something will kind of come through in that sort of way from the world. And the star is very inspirational, like following your North Star, support from the universe, that whole good stuff. So it's a matter of, it's very positive in terms of with the Yod and the idea of having even Saturn and Neptune are both in the sign of Pisces right now, and so there's a lot of opportunity there to have your dreams really serve the world, because if they're in the right direction and have the right intentions behind them, it's going to get a lot of traction. So Pisces, very positive reading, as long as you have done the work in terms of looking inward, which I think you have. They're more tuned to that, usually, Pisces people. It can just be hard sometimes to interpret dream signs and like, what does symbolism mean and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, those are it for you, Pisces. The World and the Star. So next, we're back around to the beginning of the wheel, and we've got Aries, which has both the North Node, which has freshly moved into it, and Chiron. I don't know how long Chiron takes these days to move. Astrologer knows, you can let me know what Chiron's cycle is. I do like Chiron a lot as finding intel. But in Aries, it's a lot of finding the ability to act, because if you think of Chiron as being like where you need to find healing in this life and past lives, it's a lot of, there may have been in the past you didn't act when you were supposed to, or you behaved in a way that wasn't in accordance to your true self. So Aries, reading for you is, from the Shadows kicked up, the Lovers, which is kind of fun because, as I said, Aries opposes Libra, and so if we look at the idea of partnership here, Aries, even though like you're definitely the type of person who's like, I can just do it myself, I don't need anybody. And you've got the Hanged One. This is fun. So considering the fact that Venus is in retrograde and the idea of the placing value on relationships that are ones that are supportive and less on ones that are transactional and ones that are just there to serve a very surface level purpose, the Lovers card here, Aries, is a lot about looking beyond yourself and towards others that you love and give love to. That's anything from family to close friends to your pet. And this is all about self-sacrifice and willing self-sacrifice, serene self-sacrifice in the effort of knowledge. And so sometimes in relationships, there are sacrifices that are made, but it's not like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. It's a willing sacrifice so that you end up with a deeper knowledge about how to further relate with others and all of that kind of good stuff. So Aries, this is a nice juicy reading where you have this Venus retrograde and a further enforcement to look at those loving relationships, along with the idea of perhaps taking a look at where in your life you may need to cut things off or make self-sacrifice so that you can grow and blossom more in your other relationships. So that's a read for you, Aries. The Hanged one and the Lover's card. So next we have Taurus. So Taurus, my home sign, repping my Taurus friends today. And we are in the sign of Leo, and Leo is a fixed sign. So Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, and Scorpio are all fixed signs, and they all oppose each other. They all make crosses. So if you think of all the mutable signs, they do the same thing, and same thing with the cardinal signs, and they're all in each element. It's a good way to kind of remember all that. So we've got for you, Taurus, from the Shadowscapes deck, the Tower. Oh, yay. That's fun. Good old Tower card. Burn it all down, I guess. That's what it is. Towers like burn down old pillars of like beliefs and things that no longer serve you. But sometimes it can feel a little, oh, this is good. This softens it a bit. The Star. Okay, Taurus friends, we've got the Tower, which of course, as I said, gets this whole idea of, see, it's like the lightning and the fire, and you're burning down the pillars of belief. And like in NLP, we talk about, you know, like self-limiting beliefs where we can hold on to certain beliefs just because we spent a lot of time building it and building it up. And, you know, as it's coming down, even though it's like, it's never good for you, it still kind of like feels like kind of crazy. So that's why it's good to have the Star here, because so long as there is a North Star, there's a goal, there's something after, there's always hope, right? So as everything's coming down, it's like a necessary feeling like everything's ending so that better things can come through on the other side. Just keeping that North Star there. And the Star does also represent Aquarius, the age of Aquarius, and the idea of an enlightened age where individuals work together cohesively and not in a Borg mind. So burning down old ideas of what that kind of means to work in a group, and think in a brand new novel idea of what that looks like, Taurus. And that can be hard for fixed signs, speaking of fixed signs, to change and think of things in a total new novel way, because it's uncomfortable. You have to like work through growing pains and all that good stuff. Okay, so next we have Gemini. Gemini and Cancer, and then we're done. Okay. So, my Geminis, we have for you Death. Well, that's fun. I like this Death card from Shadowscapes because it's Phoenix rising from the ashes situation, and the idea of putting to bed an old self and having one flourish from that. Although Geminis, I know you have multiple selves usually going on at a time, and I think a healthy thing to look at would be perhaps parts of yourself that are sabotaging things, and maybe you should get rid of them. So to clarify the Death card, oh good, the Star is a nice theme to come up as well, as opposed to always like the Hermit and the Star, I feel like are a big theme tonight. We have, so first Gemini, there's Death, and the idea of the parts of you that perhaps no longer serve, that can kind of be put to death, and put that away. And then with the Star, it's all about direction and guidance and following your inner North Star. And that can be tough, I feel, for mutable signs and Geminis who can be many people at once. And so is it your North Star? Are you following like other people's North Stars just because you can? And this card, in terms of Death card, is asking that it's not possible to constantly have 5 million directions. You're not going to necessarily get where you want to go. So take a breath, look at where it is that you want to be going, and once you do, you can figure out which parts of you are not serving that purpose and put those away. So that's my reading for you, Gemini. You've got the Death card and the Star. And then finally, last and certainly not least, we've got Cancer. And Cancer, of course, I love Cancer because Cancer is ruled by the moon, and as a result, is very emotional. There's a lot of Cancerians. I mean, Canada and the US, there's a lot of Cancerian countries. Cancer is also a cardinal sign, and so it can be very initiatory when it comes to emotional things. So less of like, you wouldn't think of Cancers as necessarily passive. They can be very emotional. And so Cancer, what we have for you is strength. Last but not least, and you get the most benevolent card in the deck. So having strength, Cancer, that's the first one, and like very much fitting for Leo season, and having courage, the lion-heartedness, all of that stuff. My kitty ears, very thematic. And with that, we have Temperance. I like this card a lot. So the alchemical card, where you like putting together different pieces and elements and alchemizing it together to bring out something that is brand new. And with the Strength card, it's about having the strength and the courage to be able to try something that is brand new, Cancer. And I think with being a moon that's ruled by emotions, it's kind of funny because the moon is ever changing. You have a full moon tomorrow. She moves very frequently, and so I feel like sometimes Cancers can feel like they need to find stability in other ways, and can be almost like, with your claws, like holding on to it too tightly. And so it's, I think, sometimes a matter of having the strength to be able to let go a little bit and to try something different, a new way of like alchemizing, finding security in your home life and all that kind of good stuff. And yes, the strength to not give into when things feel like, oh my gosh, I have like anxiety, but like to lean into your own inner strength and find ways to alchemize emotions that don't always feel so nice, instead of, acting in old patterns or loops that sometimes seem easier at the time, but they don't let us grow and evolve as human beings. But still, ultimately, Cancer, great pull. You've got strength and temperance. Okay, so let me go back to the screen. Oh my gosh, the screen. That takes care of all the readings from Leo season, Leo, all the way to Cancer. We talked about the Yods, as well as the idea of opposing planets and energies of those planets, and intel you can get from looking at your opposing sign. So I will be editing this and including timestamps for all the readings so that you can go back and check your readings. And bear in mind that these readings are for your sun, moon, and rising signs. If you want to figure out your own astro stack, you can use the free calculator that I have on my website, and I will have that in the description below. And if you're interested in a reading, I will also have a link in the description below. As for that, I hope you have a wonderful evening, day, afternoon, wherever you are in the cosmos, and we will catch all of you next time.